Alright, Tyrone, here what we've got is a view of your car. Just wanted to show you what I'm looking at so when we have the conversation it's a little easier for you to envision what I'm speaking of. Um, First of all, I know this is not going to be the most helpful view, but where the light is basically too bright to see, I'll adjust that. That's where your motor mount is. And when we press the brake and press the gas at the same time, this is one of the major spots we see it bucking up and down. It doesn't happen quite as much in reverse because it is one of the front motor mounts. That's also called the radiator side motor mount. The other one you can see is actually damaged a little better. It is, let me get my hand on the frame, right below this bolt. You can see a crack sort of there. That's the right side motor mount or the timing belt one, and they're both heavily damaged. There's a lot of movement in this engine, and you can simply see that yourself by pressing the brake and then pressing the gas at the same time when it's in drive as well as when it's in reverse, and that can kind of indicate which one is bad. Another thing I'm going to recommend here is that we do a full transmission flush, and I'll tell you why. Using my visual aid here, this is a sample of transmission fluid that is fresh out of the bottle compared with a sample of transmission fluid that has lived too long of a life inside someone's car. Now I'm going to attempt to show you what yours looks like on this camera. Here's the dipstick. You can just see the darkness in color. It's not quite as bad as the negative example in my visual aid, but you can tell it's really getting close. I would imagine this transmission hasn't been serviced in a little while, so I'm going to recommend doing the full flush rather than just the 3-quart service. Now that I've got the car up in the air, I'm just going to show you where your exhaust is actually looking pretty good. There's no spots where I see excessive rust. Where it connects to the mufflers, here and here, it's really actually pretty clean looking. Let me reposition my light here. You can really see all the way down, and no holes. All the way up to the cap, where it starts to look a little more rusted, but still not to the point where we're looking at any actual openings in it. While I've got you up in the air, I want to show you what I'm seeing on the tires. We're seeing an alignment issue here. You can see the tread of the tires is pretty normal until you get to the far inside here. This is actually what we call secondary rubber. It's smooth to the touch, and the only thing directly below this is the actual metal cords beneath all the rubber in your tire. What this speaks to is an alignment issue. Basically, your car is driving pigeon-toed. You can see it here, not quite as severely, but you can still see the secondary rubber on the inside, not the outside. As well as the depth of the tread on all 4 tires. These tires haven't worn quite as bad. They're actually a little more worn on the outside than the inside. So I'd certainly recommend doing all 4 tires as well as an alignment, so you don't eat up the next pair of tires like these have unfortunately been worn on the outsides more than overall. And since I'm here at the rear of the car, I wanted to just poke my camera in here and show you my view of the rear brake pad. If I can orient my screen here. There we are. I was just missing it. You can see right where right between the rotor surface that's kind of rocky looking like the surface of the moon, and then that caliper, you can see the very, very thin pad. That's a brake pad that is on the verge of wearing out. Again, this would be another thing that would be real close to failing inspection. The rear brake pads do less of the braking, but what we're seeing here are pads that I wouldn't really put off replacing. I'm going to be recommending you replace your brake pads with Honda brake pads, which may actually be a little more expensive than what you've put on the front. But to speak to that, I just kind of wanted to show you the amount of brake dust that's built up on the front wheels as opposed to the rear. This can be a sign of, you know, the aftermarket pads, the compound that the brake pad material is made out of is different. It's not quite as attuned to the specifics of your vehicle's specs, not made by Honda, obviously. This can also be evidence of lack of rotations, which could have been contributing to these tires kind of prematurely wearing out. Last thing I'm going to mention is just simply the headlights. The left headlight is a little cloudier than the right, but we actually have a process where we use 3 different grains of sandpaper, tape it all off, and use a compound with a buffer on here. The whole process takes about an entire hour, and we can get your headlights looking like glass. Eventually this is something that will fail your inspection when it becomes an impedance to your vision at night. Right now they're not to that point, but I'm just going to add that onto the estimate just so you have an idea, and you understand that the process we do here is a lot more comprehensive and a lot longer lasting than something you can find cheaper at another shop.